This is Rita Keeping It Real, and we're reading through the the Good News Bible. I was reading it for a while. We're on the book of Daniel, chapter 5, and I also use the Haley's Bible Handbook as a source of information. And usually I'll read the passage from the Good News Bible first, and then I'll see what Haley's has to say. But I'm going to start reading Haley's first. Kind of gives me just for me, a better, just overall framework of what I'm about to read and put it into context. So let's get started. So Daniel chapter 5, Belshazzar's feast. This was on the night of the fall of Babylon. Oh, just go back, act like it's real, people. In my head, I gotta act like it's really like this is the night where Babylon, which has been in control and rulership, is going to fall. And you kind of think about the U.S. too, and all of Psalms 83. Like there's going to come a time when it falls, and then there's the night of the fall, or the day before the fall. So this was on the night of the fall of Babylon. Daniel has been in Babylon for 70 years. Oh, gosh. Oh, he was now a very old man. Archaeological note. Belshazzar, until 1853, no mention of Belshazzar was found in Babylonian records. And if you actually are listening to this, you know that I skip over names or don't pronounce names right, and that's just the way it is. Because I think sometimes when we think we have to get the names exactly right, or that's when we don't do it. Don't read it. Don't go on. Okay, so till 1853, no mention of Belshazzar was found in Babylonian records. And then Bodius, to the critics, this was one of the evidences that the book of Daniel was not historical. We read that before about them thinking it wasn't written by Daniel. But in 1853, an inscription was found in the cornerstone of the temple built by Nabonidus in Ur to a god which read, "May I, Nabonidus, king of Babylon, not sin against thee, and may reverence for thee dwell in the heart of Belshazzar, my firstborn favorite son." From other inscriptions, it has been learned that Nabonidus, much of the time, was in retirement outside of Babylon, and that Belshazzar was in control of the army and the government, co-regent with his father, and that it was he who surrendered to Cyrus. This explains how Daniel could be third ruler in the kingdom. 1629. Archaeological note. Handwritten in the wall, 2528. The foundation of this very wall has been recovered. See below. So that's the wall. I don't see anything written on the wall, but maybe it's there. So ruins of Nebuchadnezzar's palace in Babylon. Curtis of the Oriental Institute, University of Chicago. The fall of Babylon is thus related to Xenophon, Herodias, and Merosus. Cyrus diverted the Euphrates into a new channel and got it by two deserters marched by the city bed into the city while the Babylonians were carousing at the feast of their gods. Inscriptions found in recent years state that the Persian army under Gobryas took Babylon without a battle, and he killed the son of the king that Cyrus entered later. Darius 31, who reigned in Babylon until Cyrus took over in 628. 991 is not mentioned in the inscriptions. These must be verses from Daniel. He is thought to have been either Gorius, who was named in Babylonian tablets as conqueror of Babylon, or, as Josephus said, Cyrus, the Median father-in-law of Cyrus. To have a Babylonian name and a native name was common, as Daniel and his three friends were given new names, just like we were given new names, or so it's told we were given new names when we came here to the Americas. But whether Darius was father-in-law of Cyrus or one of his generals, he led the army that conquered Babylon. While Cyrus was busy with his northern and western wars, and until the personal arrival of Cyrus reigned as king of Babylon, probably for about 2 years. So what I got from that is that Daniel is true, probably, and that Daniel is very old at this point when this story is happening. So, chapter 5, Belshazzar's banquet. One night, King Belshazzar invited 1,000 noblemen to a great banquet, and they drank wine together. While they were drinking, Belshazzar gave orders to bring in the gold and silver cups and bowls which his father Nebuchadnezzar had carried off from the temple in Jerusalem. The king sent them for them so that he, his noblemen, his wives, and his concubines could drink out of them. That's a problem, right? They're drinking out of those holy cups and bowls that were stolen at once. At once. The gold cups and bowls were brought in, and they all drank wine out of them, and praised gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Okay. Suddenly, a human hand, this one over here, we're obviously going to paint, a human hand appeared and began writing on the plaster wall of the palace, where the light from the lamps was shining most brightly. And the king saw the hand as it was writing. He turned pale and was so frightened that his knees began to shake. He shouted for someone to bring in the magicians, the wizards, the astrologers. When they came in, the king said to them, "Anyone who can read this writing and tell me what it means will be dressed in robes of royal purple." So that's, remember, somewhere in here I read that the colors of the Most High, like royal purple, like a scarlet red, and blues. He'll wear a gold chain of honor around his neck and be the third in power in the kingdom. The royal advisors came forward, but none of them could read the writing or tell the king what it meant. In his distress, King Belshazzar grew even paler, and his noble men had no idea what to do. The queen mother heard the noise made by the king and his noblemen and entered the banquet hall. She said, "May your majesty live forever. Please do not be so disturbed and look so pale. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him." Ooh. When your father was king, this man showed good sense, knowledge, and wisdom, like the wisdom of gods. King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, made him chief of the fortune tellers. I'm trying to wonder, why doesn't Belshazzar know about Daniel? Why is the queen mother telling him about Daniel? That's interesting. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, made him chief of the fortune tellers, magicians, wizards, and astrologers. He has unusual ability and is wise and skillful in interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining mysteries. So send this man Daniel, whom the whom the king named Belshazzar, and he will tell you what all of this means. Daniel explains the writing. Daniel was brought at once into the king's presence, and the king said to him, "Are you Daniel, that Jewish exile, whom my father and the king brought here from Judah? I have heard that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that you are skillful and have knowledge and wisdom." The advisors and the magicians were brought in to read this writing and tell me what it means, but they could not discover the meaning. Now I have heard that you can find hidden meaning and explain mysteries. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you will be dressed in robes of royal purple, wear a gold chain of honor around your neck, and be the third in power in the kingdom. Daniel replied, "Keep your gifts for yourself, or give them to someone else." He's an old man now. He doesn't care about that stuff. He didn't care about it back then. "I will read, your majesty. I will read for your majesty what has been written and tell you what it means. The supreme God," I love that, the supreme God, that's kind of throughout here. It says, "The supreme God made your father Nebuchadnezzar a great king and gave him dignity and majesty. He was so great that people of all nations and races and languages were afraid of him and trembled. If he wanted to kill someone, he did. If he wanted to keep someone alive, he did. He honored or disgraced anyone he wanted to. But because he became proud, stubborn, and cruel, he was removed from his royal throne and lost his place of honor. He was driven away from human society, and his mind became like that of an animal. He lived with wild donkeys, ate grass like an ox, and slept in the open air with nothing to protect him from the dew. Finally, he admitted that the supreme God controls all human kingdoms and can give them to anyone he chooses." I mean, we're back to that again. We're back to that point again, that the supreme God controls all human kingdoms, all of the kingdoms that exist today, all of the countries that exist today. God is in control. So don't think that the things that are happening now in 2025 are not under the control of the supreme God, Most High, because he is in control. He's in control back then, he's in control now. But you, his son, have not humbled yourself. Even though you knew all of this, you knew all this happened to his dad. You acted against the Lord of heaven and brought in the cups and bowls taken from his temple. Your noblemen, your wives, and your concubines drink wine out of them and praise gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. So to me, that's kind of like all these gods that they praised that were made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone are like the gods that we praise today, or we honor today, or take our time today. Whether it's money or technology or sports or shopping or all of these different things that are taking up our time when we should be, having a relationship with this supreme God, which is in us, which is watching us, which is everywhere. We're wasting our time with all this stuff that doesn't matter. All these things that don't matter. So we're different. It's just got different names. So, God that cannot see or hear. Wait. See, there we go. Gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Gods that cannot see or hear, and that do not know anything. But you do not honor the God who determines whether you live or die, and who controls everything you do. Oh, when I started out, before I started reading this, I lit my incense, I prayed, I did my 4-7-8 breathing. When you breathe in, you hold it and you breathe out. I turned on some Hertz music to get myself right in the space that I needed to be. And I thought, should I do that on, while I'm, no, I'll just do it before I get started. But just know that before you start reading the word, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Like right now, what's happening to me? Where it's like, I'm going to keep it real. Where it's like, it is Saturday, the so-called Sabbath. And like, again, I've been researching that it's not a static day, maybe. And I'm telling you, when you just stop and take a day to say, I am not going to do what I do every other day, which is a bunch of nonsense to me. It's like, no, it's whatever you're supposed to do in life. Pay bills, make money, walk around the block, all this stuff, cook, shop, go out to eat. And you say, I'm not doing any of that today. I'm doing this today. You know what? Think about this. They're sitting here at this banquet. They're at this banquet. They're enjoying life like a party. They don't know that their kingdom is ending this night. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. We don't know that our lives might be ending tonight. I don't know that my life might not be ending tonight. So every second that you are still alive is critical. I don't care what anybody says. We do not know what happens when we die. We think we know. We've read what we think we know. All these quote unquote religions say what they think they know. But at the end of the day, nobody knows. I mean, truly, at the end of the day, you don't know, I don't know, we don't know. But we do know this. We know that there is a supreme God. We know that. We can look at all of the different things to know that. We can look at the world that exists to know that something is in control of it all. Right? And we know that we don't live forever. We know we're going to die. I have a whole project called the Black Folder Project, where buy yourself a black folder, put it in all your documents you need, write a letter to your loved ones, put it somewhere, let people know where it's at. So when you do die, it's not a bunch of chaos of people trying to figure out what you owe, what you wanted, where you want to be buried, if you want to be buried, where your life insurance policies are, all of that. Because if nothing else, you know that. You don't know nothing else in this world. You know you're going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. And everybody's like, oh, gosh, don't say that. It's so morbid. It's the freaking truth. Let's get with that and do stuff while you are still alive that matters and makes sense. Right? And reading these stories, like, I am not going to read it from the King James. I'm not. Because it's a bunch of he-thous and this, and I don't get the story. Right? It's like, let me just confuse them. This is the story. And the story is that they were honoring all these other gods, but not honoring the God that, what? The God who determines whether you live or die, and who controls everything you do. Right? Oh, oh. So honor the God who determines whether you live or die, and who controls everything you do. I mean, I'm going to start that. That's something to remember. Okay. So, this is why God has sent this hand to write these words. If we could all be so lucky where God could send a hand out to write some words on a wall. And I guess, I gotta stop again because I have been so lucky. I have been so lucky. Where it was during the time, it was like the 80s. I just graduated from college. My son was, I don't know, about 6 or 7. My father was still alive. I just came back from Washington, D.C., where one of my first mentors, I was a bookkeeper at that time, and she had invited me to Washington to do her books for her. And I did their books, and just watching her life in D.C., like she was a white woman who was very wealthy in a way, had her own company and was used to wealth, right? And when I had worked for her and a whole host of other people who were wealthy where I grew up, where I lived, they were very wealthy people, and I watched their lifestyle. So here I am between jobs, just graduated college, came back from DC. Before I went to DC, I had a horrible attitude. I was mad that I was between jobs, couldn't find a job, all that. And when I came back from DC and my dad saw me, he said, and he saw I, was looking better and not depressed. He said, "Did you get a job?" I'm like, "No, I got something better." I said, "I got a better attitude." And he said, "That's all you need. That's all you need." And he gave me this lesson. He said, "Come here and let me show you something. Let me show you the secret." I'm like, "Okay." And so we had this 7-Eleven coffee cup. We have 7-Eleven where I live. I know it's not everywhere. I've been places where it's not. And the 7-Eleven coffee cup, and he put the coffee cup down and he said, "I want you to look at that coffee cup. Stare at it really good. Look at it really good. Take a real good look at it." And I did. And he said, "Now what I want you to do is I want you to look at the coffee cup and then quickly look at the wall." There was a white wall, just a wall block, no pictures on it, just a wall. I said, "What?" Look at the coffee cup, then look at the wall. I did that. Look at the coffee cup, I looked at the wall, look at the coffee cup, look at the wall. I said, "What am I doing?" He said, "I want you to find the coffee cup in the wall." What? Do it. I did it. I did it a lot of times. And then I did it and I kind of saw something in the wall. I said, "I think I see something." He said, "No, you don't see it." I did it again. I did it again. And I did it. The last time I did it. I looked up at the wall and I backed up scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my God, oh my God. The coffee cup was in the wall coming at me like in 3D. He knew I saw it. And he said, "Just know this. Whatever you want is already there, but you have to know what you're looking for." I'll never forget that lesson. But then he had a picture of Jesus. He wasn't really a religious man, but he had this picture of Jesus and he did the same thing. And he showed me that and he let me know that God was everywhere, even in that wall. But anything I wanted in this life. And it's true that you have to know what you want before you can go after it. Even if you can imagine what it is, you imagine that it's real. Even if it's not in the world, and I've done it many times, you create it in your mind first, and then you can make it a reality. But it has to be really detailed. But anyways, okay, that I got that from that. It's already happened. It can happen to maybe it's happened to you too, but it certainly has happened to me. Okay. Oh, so what is it? This is what was written. Number, weight, divisions. And this is what it means. Number. God has numbered your days of your kingdom and has brought it to an end. Weight. You have been weighed in the scales and found to be too light. Divisions. Your kingdom is divided up and given to the Medes and the Persians. Immediately, Belshazzar ordered his servants to dress Daniel in a robe of royal purple and hang a gold chain of honor around his neck. And he made him the third in power in his kingdom. That night, Belshazzar, the king of Babylonia, was killed. And Darius the Mede, wait a minute. Immediately, Belshazzar ordered his servants to dress Daniel in a robe of royal and purple, and hang a gold chain of honor around his neck. And he made him the third in power in the kingdom. That same night, Belshazzar, the king of Babylonia, was killed, and Darius the Mede, who was then 62 years old, seized the royal power. Okay, so you got to think, when in your life, let's just call it the Supreme God, you can call it the Most High, either one. When in your life have you heard directly from the Supreme God? I mean, God is right there with you all the time. Like not going anywhere. But we don't we're the one moving, not paying attention. Probably should have my colors out for this, but for me, there have been many times, that I've been blessed to know that I'm in sync, I'm where I'm supposed to be. God is sending me a message, all of this. You got to think about that. When in your life have you been so in tune that God has showed up, to this degree? To this degree. Mm. These are times that not everybody is this close to the Most High. Not everybody is. If you are, be grateful. Be grateful. Because these are times where I think God is sorting people out. Especially like during COVID. Like, how did you spend that time when, you couldn't go outside? What did you do? To me, that was like the best time ever. That was a wonderful time. I got through a lot of this book during that time. During that time. That is right there. Oh, yes. Yes. Imagine this. This is a wall. God is writing on the wall. There are walls in your life. God is writing on the wall. Listen to what the Supreme God has to say. This is not a time to be, you can listen to other people and other stuff, but it may not even matter. Why does it matter? Why doesn't it matter? Because the God who determines whether you live or die and who controls everything you do, that's who you're supposed to be honoring. That God. Whew. This was Daniel. Book of Daniel. Chapter 5. This is about the banquet and the handwriting on the wall and the fact that we need to honor the Supreme God. So this is Ryder keeping it real. Till next time. Peace.